All right, it's me, Froggy, back again, covering Justin Posey's book, right, Beyond the Map's Edge. And today's video has a special subject. It's the brand new chapter, after all this time, brand new story, never before heard, never before seen, never before read. It's only in the Audible book. So the Audible book was released yesterday. And shout out to a couple people on Discord who really bought it early and told us what the story was. Cool Ma, I went and shout her out. She was one of the first ones. Unfortunately, her laptop was still downloading it, and it was another user who actually put it in the chat and said what it was. But I do appreciate, being able to bite the bullet. In the end, I ended up buying it anyways because once I heard the topic and what was talked about, I had to hear it from my own ears. Doubting Thomas over here. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk, I've listened to it a bunch of times. I have a few takeaways. We're also going to address the big elephant in the room, in my mind, elephant in the room, which is, what is Justin doing by having a previously unheard, unreleased story where people have already spent money, gone boots on the ground, and how he's rolling this out, right? So I'll go ahead and address that first, all right? So here's my take. I struggled back and forth, did my own little pros and cons, my little if-then statements, trying to be a little programmer here, and went down two rabbit holes. Okay, do we take Justin as word? Is he just trying to help us out? Okay, and follow that logic down. Is Justin being duplicitous, or is he being trying to mislead and follow that train out? Okay, and the one that just makes the most sense to me, as of right now, with what we're going, is we're going to take Justin as word. All right, so in my mind, the way I'm going to set this as a foundation for all my videos until something changes, I guess, until he releases another book with another hidden story in it, is we're going to take it from the perspective that Justin was a searcher. He was frustrated at times with how the hunt was being handled. He learned from that, and he's trying his best to not repeat the same mistakes. Now, inadvertently, maybe it's our fault as a community, but there is some frustrations I'm hearing and I'm experiencing, me personally, with how stuff is being rolled out and the content that's being delivered and the format that's being delivered. So, but we're gonna take him again, try to believe he's acting in good faith. That's the premise for how I'm gonna operate my videos, at least for now, right? So he's trying his best. He sees or hears people going down these rabbit holes, and he wants to address them and correct them, right? That's the basis for his statement, the full treasures in the wilderness, right? So you can take that a lot of different ways. The way I'm choosing to take it right now is that there were still some doubters over, and I understand why, because of Lydia Coin, treasure trove laws and all that. There's still some people who are saying, well, maybe the whole treasure as shown in the book and in Netflix is not out there to be grabbed. I'm taking him at his word. He says the full treasure's out there. All right, so I do understand the loopholes, legality. I understand what laws people are referencing. I understand the steward and its items. I understand all that. As of right now, that's how I'm gonna go forward with my videos. That's the basis that I'm choosing to follow right now. I'm not throwing away the other stuff. That stuff is still have the notes. It's plan B or C, right? We're gonna go with plan A for right now. All right, Justin's just doing his best to communicate as best he can, and even though he understands on the interview with me, he understands that, hey, the more stuff he puts out there, it's more stuff for searchers to have to go through, right? They have to listen to every interview. That's why he said he was going to limit the interviews. They have to buy all the additional media he puts out. That's why he was going to try to limit it, right? Not do it in every different language. So, all right, we're believing Justin, all right? We're trusting Justin. We're Team Justin right now, okay? And so this newest chapter, in my mind, it's got to address something, right? He said that the new chapter will address a question, will address a location that's been, a lot of people have been asking about. A lot of people thought it was going to be Alaska. In my mind, I thought the majority said Alaska, but maybe he's seeing different stuff, all right? Maybe, and what he saw from his data is that Lukeville was had more confusion, okay? So he addressed it, right? How did he address it? he just mentions it in the story, right? Still doesn't, I don't know, in my mind, would I have yet, if that really addresses it, but he talks about it. All right, so let's go ahead and, right now, we're going to start the discussion of the story, right? Los Camarones Calientes. Apologize to my Spanish teacher. I understand why she gave me a C, because my accent's just not quite there. Still can't roll them R's, despite how I look. But we're going to talk about that, and again, even though there's the temptation to dive super deep, because this chapter, this story, again, this story has tons of buzzwords. Odysseys, talks about realm, talks about wheels, talks about checkpoint. Sagaro talks about deserts, talks about borders, brings up Lukeville, brings up vomiting, right? I apologize for those with sensitive. I should have put a trigger warning before. And it seems to almost contradict some of the stuff said from an earlier story, and even stuff said on the interview, because I asked him about that story. I was interested in it, right? So, again, we're Team Justin. He's acting in good faith. So, what is the purpose for releasing this out? All right, is it again? I'm not buying the whole thing that he added a new story just so people would have to buy it. All right, and he'd get another $20 minus the cut for whoever produced it. Another $7 up. I don't know. I'm just guessing, rough math. So don't think that's the case. I do have a theory. It's not the strongest theory, but the theory is. I messed up my order. Then I jumped ahead. All right. Well, I'll go ahead and say it because I already started it. I hadn't early on. I focused on the cipher a little bit, and then I kind of it's not my strong suit, so I kind of waited back and said, "Well, I'll let someone else figure it out." And then after a couple of weeks or months, when they're frustrated that they haven't gotten anywhere, they'll post it publicly, and then we can all work on it together. All right, shortcuts, right? I love shortcuts. So some new information has come up. A couple people have claimed that they have a cipher, and the way they talk about it seem to indicate that it's somewhere with the titles. The meat of the cipher, or what you're ciphering, I guess, is or the encryption, maybe that's a better term, is the titles for the stories. And I thought about that, looked at it, and logically, if you have an option of poem, titles, text, photos, photos would be difficult, but it can be done. And if those are your 4 sections, right? Photos, the titles, the text, or the poem, and if and I'm not going to include the songs or anything like that, or his social media posts, but if the cipher's in one of those, I was leaning more strongly toward it being in the poem. But now I'm leaning more toward it being the titles, because the text is too thick, it's too much. So I'm not willing to think about that right now, and I don't think, based on what he said, it'd be in. The poem is too small, too short. The encryption would have to be really, really complex and obtuse, or the message would be really, really short, which I don't think it's going to be that short of a message. But the titles are a perfect medium, right? And the way I believe that is because of all it seems to be tweaking, right? He knows what the solve is, and it seems to me, if we're believing that he's acting in good faith, which I know some of my viewers don't, and that's okay, I just ask you to be respectful in the comments, that he's trying to lead us and guide us and get rid of any possible misunderstandings. So, for example, in the ebook, for those of you who bought the ebook, and I don't know if this is public knowledge yet, I haven't done a video on it, but I thought that this is information that's already out there. If you buy the ebook and you look at the file description for some of the photos, most of the stories are in line up with the story title, but there's a few. For example, Grandma's Hands, right? It's called Fading Flame, I believe, is the exact words. And so there's a possibility that there were alternative title names to the stories, and why he chose that or not. And now with the audiobook, there's another change in there, Trailside Troubles, which if you have the hard copy, the hardback book, right? This one right here, it's on page 113. It's called Trailside Troubles. Well, in the audiobook, and this is something that I can verify because I have it, the audiobook is called The Trailside Troubles. And so thinking about it, I was like, okay, why would he? I mean, maybe he just farmed out the job of typing in the titles to a data entry or a third party, and they were just, humans make mistakes, right? We all make mistakes. Maybe they're just entering it and they just fat-fingered a THE, right? I found it interesting that the audio title for the first new story is Los Cabrones Calientes, which is the, all right? I do apologize if my mom's watching this. She's watching me butcher my Spanish. But again, it seems like he made a solid effort to include the in most of the stories. And when I say solid effort, I mean like a B+, because there's still some stories that don't have the, right? And I've talked about this a little bit before. Posey's on the Road, page 14. Posey Land, page 17. Rearview Riches, page 64. So there's no the in front of it. So why would you go through the trouble of making a change if not all of them were going to line up? Is he trying to direct us to the story titles that stick out? And so the last thing, well, okay, that's not about that. So anyways, going forward, I'm kind of messing up my order here. This is why even when I write a script, I don't follow it. And going forward, I will be working on the cipher, at least for the next week or two. I think I have a good handhold on where to start. And so I'm just gonna be working on that and passing it and sharing it with you guys, because I don't believe that the cipher will lead you to an exact location, right? If the cipher is from the book titles, which is where I'm guessing they are, it's just gonna help with the poem, right? And so anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about what everybody's dying to hear about. I apologize for going through 11 minutes. So let's talk about the story. So one of the big words I got from this is border. I know a lot of people are talking about checkpoint. A lot of people are talking about sentinel. But for me, I get border. Because, so my family's from Texas. I spent a good deal of amount of time in Texas. I lived in Texas for a while. Even to this day, I wouldn't really say I'm from Texas. When you say you're from Texas, it means a certain thing. And anybody who's watching this from Texas knows what I'm talking about. If I moved to Texas, if I never lived in Texas, moved to Texas tomorrow, and a year later I meet someone and they ask where I'm from, being 30, whatever, almost 40, and I only live 1 year, I don't know if I would feel right about saying I'm from Texas. Or if someone heard me saying I'm from Texas, they would they might get their wires crossed a little bit. And so, in that being said, there's a whole nother area of talking about border towns. And border towns are another little oddity, at least from my limited experience, right? I'm not Mr. Texas over here. I'm not an expert in Texas. I don't got Texas flag tattooed. If you have a Texas tattoo, Texas flag or Texas star, you can say you're from Texas. That's kind of a loophole. All right, that I guess. Anyways, so and the action. The reason why I'm talking about this is because the action for the story takes place at the border, right? Which I differentiate. I don't know if Justin makes the same if Justin makes the same distinction. All right, because so Lukeville is not even like so he grew up in Arizona. All right, and I don't want to speak on Arizona because I didn't live in Arizona, so I don't know if Arizona border towns are like Texas border towns, right? But when he talks about Lukeville and saying that this story will address the questions about a location, right? The action doesn't take place in Lukeville. It takes place in the border town, which, well, doesn't even take place in the border town. It takes place at the border, which I always differentiate as a different place, which maybe I'm the weird one right here. But I see the border, especially the U.S.-Mexico border, is like its own little microcosm, right? And to cement that point, you can just listen to, because you can't look because it's an audiobook, right? Listen to how the two other characters, not Justin, his babysitter and her mother, they describe it. They acknowledge that the border is different because they have their own set of rules or commandments, right? I'll touch on this briefly. Justin loves, I don't say he loves alliteration. The book has a lot of alliteration. There's a lot of doubles and repetition. I have a solve that's like fundamentally based on that concept. And so this section starts around minute 4. So if you're trying to skip to where I'm talking about, it's about minute 4 of the audiobook. Minute 4:20 is 4:22 talks about the checkpoint. But about minute 4, Justin describes that his nanny has a set of commandments, and then he doubles down by saying rules. So rules and commandments. So that's not alliteration, but that's a double right there, right? They both kind of mean the same thing. a set of commandments, and then he says rules addressed specifically for border crossings, specifically for the borders. And the rule is that, let's see if I can remember the quote exactly, never shall wheel touch checkpoint soil, all right, which, as I understood the context, meaning that, and it's very relatable and I understand it, and I've experienced it, that you get less scrutinized foot if you do the footpath, right? If you don't know about the Mexican-U.S. border, there's a road you can drive, and there's a vehicular checkpoint, and then there's a pedestrian checkpoint. There's a footpath that goes at most of the crossings. I can't speak for all of them. And both times there's a checkpoint, and you'll get searched both ways. But when you go in on foot, it's just less scrutiny versus if you go in a vehicle, there can be the potential for a 6-hour stop, like Justin's talking about, right? And so Justin, his maid, his nanny, she knew that because she had these rules. So again, this is just, I'm getting a little bit off on a tangent because this is a rabbit hole that I'm a little bit excited about. Not that it's going to produce anything, but so that's why I'm getting Border, because I think it's hidden just well enough that you have to have some background knowledge or do some research to understand. And I think there's clues in the, not the text, in the audio. If you look for stuff that's repeated, right? Okay, shrimp's repeated, yeah, we get that. But I think Saguaro was only mentioned once. Sentinel's only mentioned once. The Odyssey's mentioned twice. Look for stuff that's repeated. Rules, checkpoints, and what are the rules and checkpoint rules and commandments, and what are they talking about? The border. The border's repeated several times, and so I think that's what I'm getting for. Now, whether that means that's a clue for the cipher, we look at the borders, or a crazy idea I had is counting the dots. All these little dots. Count the dots, get a number, equate that to something. But my eyes went cross-eyed like halfway down the first list. Or whether we look at the map and we're looking at borders between states, right? Let's go check at the map real quick because they're nicely outlined in white, right? We can see them pretty well. I mean, there's a big border right here, right? So maybe the border's a clue. I don't know. I haven't figured out how to process it yet. I just feel like he's drawing our attention to border. Maybe he's drawing our attention to Lukeville. For those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, by the way, let's go ahead and show you Lukeville. I should have done this earlier. But this is why it was so talked about, because the word Lukeville, which I think is reversed for you, is off the map. I mean, so is San Juan Islands, so is Channel Islands, so is St. Lawrence Island, and a bunch of other places. But no one's talking about those, at least that I've heard. But but Lukeville, right, the Arizona border town, is the dot is on the map. I don't know if you're gonna be able to pick this up. The dot is right there, a little white dot, but the name is off, so that's why people were discussing it. They were also talking about how it lines up vertically with Polaris or some other places, Dillon in Montana, so that made some people excited. Apologize, you're gonna hear me crunching some ice because I didn't want to spit it out in the cup because that would have been gross on camera. So anyways, that's one of the main things I got. I mean, $20 was kind of steep. So here's a little bit more of my dilemma, is that I stopped about 4 or 5 chapters in. The first 4 or 5 chapter analysis and clue talks I did, I was going deeper in each chapter, looking at the words, looking at punctuation, looking at phrases. And then I kind of stopped because I felt like that wasn't what Justin wanted us to do. That wasn't how he structured the book or the poem, that we're trying to get broad topics, trying to get broad themes, and that'll help us know where to turn your head, right? It's not so much he's telling you, hey, look at that thing right there. It's more like he's guiding your head this way and just saying, like, look. That's another analogy, or the best way I can say it, is that he's not like, the book isn't as much as saying, hey, look at that pile of clothes in that chair over there, or hey, look at that squirrel in that tree, or look 400 yards out the window. It's more like the book is just like, look this way, and then helping you pick up on one there. So that's kind of it for this video. Again, I'm excited to start working on the cipher. I should have something by this weekend, and if it comes up a dud, I'll just let I'll just fully release what I have, what led me to what foothold, I guess. And if you don't hear me talk about the cipher ever again, we'll just assume that I'm on the way to the treasure, right? Because it was that in depth, which I don't think it will be. Right. Okay. So that's the main thing. What else? A couple of things from the. Right. Me try to think. Put my mind in the mind of a viewer someone who maybe you can't buy the audiobook yet, or you're not going to buy the audiobook yet, what else possibly could be important. So the basic summary, the basic rundown is Justin talks about, you may be asking, right? Which is, it's an interesting way to start it. He starts assuming we're asking him a question, which, Justin, you know the question we're asking you, right? And it's not your earliest memory, but that's the question that he is assuming he's answering. So is that a clue? Is he telling us that that's what we need to be asking? What's your earliest memory? All right. And maybe for all of you who decide that what lives in time is memory, this is a huge confirmation for you, and you should definitely buy this audiobook because that's what it's all about. All right. But so the story starts out, he's saying, you may be thinking, like, wondering what's my earliest memory, and it's not, first time I used the bathroom, it's not, mom or dad, it's the shrimp and his experience with shrimp, his olfactory experience, right? I mean, I have to trust my gut. It's all I can do. And my gut's been mostly right most of my life. It's led me wrong a few times, but I'm still here, right? And so just from my brief interaction with the dude, I gotta believe he's genuine and means what he says. Genuine and believes what he says, right? He's trying to make this hunt as smooth as possible. So, I mean, I gotta take him at his words when even though we discussed vomiting, all right, which I'm gonna go back and listen to that part again, and we discussed that, because did he know when he was doing that interview that this audio story was already an audiobook? I mean, I already assumed, I feel like it's 100%, that there are more stories that didn't make the book, because he brought up his father waking him up early in the morning and going to retrieve the 2 raccoons, right? It seemed like he thought that was in the book, or it was supposed to be in the book at one point, and it's not. So are there more chapters that we might be released, right? Maybe, a month or 2 goes by and he's like, let me throw him another bone, right? Hopefully we won't have to pay, but we'll see. All right, back to the story. I want to finish this up. I don't want to go too long. So earliest memory, and the basic point is, right, he shouts out the people who took care of him, his mom and dad, both engineers. Sometimes they had to leave at the drop of a hat, so there was no adult left to watch him, and so they had these nannies, these caretakers, and he grew close with one of them. Talks about making flowers with the caretaker's dad and all that. We grew really close. He talks about he's almost like bilingual. His Spanish probably definitely better than mine, especially if he lived in Arizona. And then one day the uncle or cousin, I think an uncle of his babysitter, got a bunch of shrimp, and so the point was they were gonna ferry the shrimp in their car, right, on tarp, I guess. I'm assuming there were buckets. I hope it just wasn't raw shrimp dumped on a tarp in the back of a vehicle. I'm guessing there were buckets involved or something. Anyways, they were gonna drive from whatever border town right across Arizona, right from Lukeville, and drive through the checkpoint. And that was where they're getting to the checkpoint, and the mom let out the babysitter and her mom like secret agents, right? Because they're like, no, we know not to cross the border in a vehicle. We're gonna cross on foot. Which I don't know. It seems very important that he put that in there, right? So again, do we have to look for borders in the poems? Do we have to look for borders on the map? Which again brings us back to the map, that you have to use it in some way. Because the story, that part's not really crucial to the story. And even if that did or didn't happen, like, anyways, we're not gonna get too much into that. So they get stopped, all right, and they're held up for like 6 hours. And Arizona sun and shrimp in the back of a vehicle don't mix. They basically hotbox the car with shrimp, and when he gets in 6 hours later, the smell was like overpowering. I'm wondering how long it took to get the smell out. He's like vomiting the whole way down. And the story ends talking about like high school, how they're cutting up with a frog, and somehow he gets a whiff of that same smell. So that's kind of the gist of the story. The point would be, I guess, throw a little bit of honor, and which, if you wanted to honor or throw some thanks to the people who took care of you when your parents were gone, a dedication would be a good place to put it, just in my mind. But he didn't. But now he's bringing them up now. I don't know. It's just it's interesting. So, anyways, it's interesting. It's humorous, right? I enjoyed listening to it. I can't say it's well written because I didn't read it. I listened to it, but it seemed like it was well written, I guess. Whoever read it, anyways, I'm getting distracted. But I enjoyed it. I got a few things from it. If nothing else, it led me to work on the cipher again. So there's that. Yeah, and if you have any questions, throw them in the comments. We'll approach it. But yeah, we're still Team Justin. We're still believing that he means what he says, and that everything he does, he's acting in our best interest. He's not intentionally trying to mislead or throw any red herrings. So until we find something else, all right? Appreciate everybody watching. Appreciate all the views. Appreciate all the likes. If you know someone who's treasure hunting, tell a friend. Tell them to watch Froggy. And yeah, that's it. All right, guys. Take care.
Now listen, all you treasure hunters, searching all around for plunder. Do you need some help to be your best? There's something that you're trying to find, but you're about to lose your mind. So come on, listen in to Estes Quest. Estes Quest, the show where he'll be sharing clues. Estes Quest will chase away your searcher's blues. He's solving puzzles with a smile. He'll help your theories pass the trial. He's welcoming you here to be his guest. Now listen close and you'll be told the clues to where he's hiding gold. So come on, listen in to Estes Quest. Come on, listen in